Hello everyone, and welcome to this edition of $1 Million Gift. We are, as always, going around town and talking to the people, the agencies and organizations that help to make our lives better, and especially the energy and the industry of the volunteers in town. It is truly a $1 million gift or more to all of us. And today, I am with LeRoyer, who is the chair of the Open Space Committee in town. We're going to find out some about how the committee functions and what it is that they do. And then also talk to Ann about your own personal journey to get to this place, and what motivates you to donate so much of your time and energy to basically the good of the community, which I just want to start out by saying we appreciate.
Thanks.
So, thanks for joining us.
Arlington's a great town. It's wonderful to be living here. I've been here since 1989, and I've been involved with a lot of different groups in town. I'm on town meeting. I used to be more involved with the Arlington Center for the Arts, but then in around 2000, I got involved with the Open Space Committee and also the Arlington Land Trust, which is a private organization, but doing comparable or complementary work. My background isn't in science or anything, but it's more in sociology was my major, and I've always worked in kind of environmental and nonprofit kinds of organizations. I'm an editor by my profession, I guess, is editor and publications director, but I'm always been interested in natural history and active outdoors and so forth. So, that's how, that's where my sort of personal interests come, and so I can use some of my skills, administrative and editing skills, to help some of these organizations that I work with.
And have you been living here in Arlington for quite a while?
I've been here since 1989.
That's a while.
And in couple different parts of town. Started way in East Arlington, and now I'm up near the Heights, so close to the reservoir here. And the reservoir is really one of the treasures of Arlington, I think. I mean, there are many, but it's one of my favorites anyway.
Very
so
appropriate.
I'm glad to be here.
We are talking to the chair of the Open Space Committee in front of one of the great open spaces here in Arlington. So let's talk about the committee's work, because as I understand it, it's not like some of the other bodies in town who are really focused, laser focused on specific issues. Say the redevelopment board, any number of committees that really have a specific ambit. I think the Open Space Committee, you basically work in conjunction with a number of other groups in town.
That's right, yes. The Open Space Committee was, as it is now anyway, was established about 1996. So before, I was not involved at that time, but it was started around that time to develop an open space plan for the town. And just as a little prop here, this is the current open space and recreation plan that we have for the town. And our committee's responsibility is to prepare this plan. Now it's done every 7 years. Originally it was every 5 years. So there was 1996 and 2001, 5 or 6 years. 2007, and then we got an extension through 2014, and that was when they shifted to 7 years, and now this one goes till 2022. So it basically documents all of the open spaces and recreational resources in town. We of course have to work with, and we have representatives on our committee from the Park and Recreation Commission, the Conservation Commission, DPW, we have a liaison with the Arlington Redevelopment Board. We used to have somebody from the Cemetery Commission.
So the committee itself is a coalition.
That's right, yes. And so we need the input from all those organizations that do the hands-on work on open spaces. And this is more of a policy document. it's a plan like the master plan that was completed a couple of years ago. But it focuses only on the open spaces and recreational facilities. We have to gather demographic material, information, of course mapping, economic information about the needs of different parts of the community, ages, and so forth. So that, and it's all a part of a statewide program through the EOEA, state Energy and Environmental Office or something, Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs or something like that. At any rate, they have a program that oversees open space plans for all the towns. Not every town does it, but most of the bigger ones do. And if you have a active open space plan in place, you're eligible for certain state funding. And we have gotten some funding, because of that. But it also just helps the town, and we has to be approved by the selectmen and the redevelopment board, and we always present it to town meetings so that people know, what we're doing. It is a policy document. It's supposed to be guidance for the town in terms of goals for improving our open spaces, acquisitions, although Arlington has very, very few opportunities for acquisition right now because we're so built out. But it's mainly more maintenance and being sure that the services are provided for the community that people want and need.
Couple of things that you mentioned have brought stuff to mind to me. One is how often I and the people that I talk to as part of different programming that we provide at ACMI, how often we discuss that built out, that the incredibly high density of population and how that influences so much of the way that things are done here in Arlington and of the issues and challenges that we confront. And so it's so important to me and to us, I think, then to also be reminded that there are open spaces in town, treasured open spaces that do require stewardship and monitoring, etc. But nonetheless, that we're all enjoying, perhaps without realizing, just how many choices we have.
The plan documents all of the open spaces that we have, and with descriptions of the bigger ones and a list of all the different ones. And there's some of the biggest ones that people know, of course, the Reservoir, Menominee Rocks Park, Spy Pond Park, Robbins Farm Park. There's the corridors, which include the Minuteman Bikeway and the Alewife Greenway now along the Cambridge and Somerville borders. Of course, the Mystic Lakes. That's all state land, but parts of it are accessible to Arlington. The biggest places are kind of managed and controlled by the Park and Recreation Commission. Then the Conservation Commission also has oversight of certain areas. Mount Gilboa is one of the biggest ones which is here also in the Heights, which is lovely nature trails in a kind of more residential area, but it's a very hilly, rocky outcrop. And I think it's not as well known as Menominee Rocks and Robbins, because those places are closer to sports fields and so forth. But the natural areas, the Reservoir, Mount Gilboa, Turkey Hill Reservation, those are pretty special because they do give you a sense of being out in the country.
Right. It's not the kind of the cultivated space that that our parks, many of our parks and our playing fields, etc. represent.
And with Arlington's growing population and growing young family population, the playing fields are certainly, so well used and so well known for soccer and baseball and lacrosse and all the other sports that the kids and adults as well are involved with. So those areas are pretty well known, but some of the more natural areas are we're trying to draw attention to them. And we've done a couple of things recently. As I mentioned, the committee works on this open space plan about now every 7 years. So it takes a couple years just of pulling all information together, documenting what's happened over the previous 5 to 7 years, putting it together, getting input from all the different committees and town bodies and so forth. And then just physically, getting photographs and the whole work. It's a big project. But we've done that. Now we finished this in 2015, so we have a couple of years to work on other things. And so the committee has a number of special projects that it's working on right now. And one of them is called Take a Walk. And we're going to map the whole town with walking routes that will connect some of the key open spaces, and to encourage people to get out and walk and to see how there are connections. It's not that big a town, and within a 1 to 2 mile radius, you can walk, connect up to 2 or 3 or 4 different open spaces. Some of them are playing fields, some of them are more smaller natural areas, conservation areas. Others are places like the reservoir. But it's really one of the things we're trying to, get people more aware of, especially some of the little more isolated places, and that they really are accessible. And
yeah, I like that idea very much, because I habitually make a looping walk around town that usually takes me an hour and 15 minutes or something like that. And as you were talking, I realized, yeah, I'm going by almost all of the places that you've mentioned.
And many of them are near or on the bike path as well. So that's a fabulous corridor that connects many of the places. And it's not too far from here, just on the other side of Herd Field, which is playing of fields, for baseball and soccer. So, all of these things are really quite accessible, but people sometimes, don't think about, they live in one area of town, they don't think about what's in another area of town. So this is something that's going to be on the town's website, and it's been announced in the newspapers, and we have some copies of the maps at the visitor center now, the new visitor center in the center. So that's something that we're excited about. And on our website, which is part of the town's website, there's another project that we did based on the open space plan, and the GIS people in the planning department helped us put together an app. So if you have a smartphone and you're walking around town, you can go to the website and get this app that's called Experiencing Arlington's Open Spaces. And it highlights 19 of the larger open spaces in town, like this one. And it has a map, and it shows where the internal trails are. It has some pictures and a little history about each property. So we really want to encourage people to use that.
Yeah, that sounds great. I really think that people would be interested in knowing what the history is of these environments in which they clearly understand their present enjoyment of those environments, because they're beautiful and it's peaceful and all that stuff. But I think that's only enhanced by understanding, how did this come about? What has, perhaps historical or events of significance that have happened in the area, or anything like that. It
doesn't have that much historical information, but it's a description, and then there is more historical information in the actual plan, which also, of course, is on the website in full, so you can, search through and find, more information. But most of the open spaces in town have been owned by the town, for a long time. I think Wellington Park, I haven't mentioned yet. That's a nice one. That's also along Mill Brook. That came to the town, I think, about 1930s. And then Menominee Rocks Park was even earlier than that. I know the reservoir itself was created in 1872.
1872, wow.
As part of a water system for the town, which never really worked properly, and within about 15 years the town converted to what's now the MWRA system. So we get our water from Quabbin Reservoir rather than from here. But the reservoir was here, and now it's a recreational resource. So that goes back a long ways.
Yep. So one of the things that you were talking earlier, that the Open Space Committee does monitor a number of things from demographics to, I guess, use of the open spaces, et cetera. So wondering, is there a role for the Open Space Committee also, and in the report, to chart environmental changes in these areas, or the impact? Something we've talked recently about with the town manager is just, you know, climate change, preparing for climate change, preparing for the effects thereof, et cetera. Wondering if our open spaces are seen in that way as well.
We do have a goal which we added to this year's plan for sustainability, which is, of course, you know, in more recent years becoming more critical. And so we do have some goals and objectives that we spell out, having to do with using native plants, for example, and controlling invasives, working on water quality issues, doing sustainable development when developments happen in town, to be sure that working with the ARB or any other entities that development is done in a sustainable way. And I mean, we don't really touch on energy and things like that per se. It's not really open space, but we do have that same overall goal, certainly, of being sure the town is, you know, able to survive. And the water quality and water issues certainly are large, and the Conservation Commission is the town organization that monitors that especially. But yes, we do have a lot of our goals. We have 75 different objectives, individual objectives out of this, under 5 goal categories. So there are lots of suggestions now. It's easy for us. We say, well, these are the goals and objectives we think the town should try to meet. It doesn't mean that we personally do them. Unfortunately, we have to depend on everybody else to, you know, kind of implement them. But that's part of our role too, is education and, you know, collaboration, and serving as an umbrella organization to kind of help the town stay focused on these issues.
Well, I mean, speaking about what it is that you do actually do, though, I have to say that looking at the plan and listening to you describe what it contains, et cetera, and even watching you thumb through it and seeing how much is contained therein, it makes me think, wow, it takes a village, so to speak, to generate something like that. How many people are on the Open Space Committee?
Currently, we have 11 people. And like I said, we have representatives from, let's see, DPW, Park and Recreation, Concom, a liaison to the Arlington Redevelopment Board, and then Vision 2020. We have a representative for Vision 2020. And I guess the rest are citizens, but we have scientists, we have educators, we have a water quality, a person that works on water management.
So people bringing different expertise to
skills,
the table.
Yes, and that's been really good. And we have, just over the last couple of years, we've had a number of new people join, some that have gone off, and some new people that have joined. And so we have quite a diverse group now, and it's great.
Sounds like there's only a handful, though, of citizens who are volunteering there right now.
Well,
is there a way for people to get involved?
Not so much on the committee itself, but one of the things we document is all the friends organizations that exist in town. And if you're looking at volunteerism, and it's just fabulous, the numbers of friends and support groups that support the open spaces, whether they're sports teams or sports clubs, or friends groups that, like for the reservoir, there's an Arlington Reservoir Committee. It's a part of Vision 2020. There's the Sustainable Arlington Committee. You know, it just could go on and on. Almost every park has its own friends group.
As you were talking, I'm realizing, yes, of course, there's a Friends of Robbins, there's a Friends of Spy Pond.
Spy Pond, Monotony Rocks. There's the Conservation Commission has a kind of a stewardship organizations, kind of loose, but individuals that do stewardship and invasive plant control in some of the conservation lands. So yeah, there's just no end of ways for people to get connected with the open spaces, not specifically with the committee itself until we have a turnover or need for new members.
I see. So there's kind of a set size for the committee.
Pretty much, yeah, because like I say, we have the representatives from the certain organizations that are kind of set by the state. I mean, they recommend that you have Concom and Park and Rec, all those. But then, like I say, we have a number of individuals who have their own skills and backgrounds that really help contribute to thinking about ideas of what our committee can do to do more outreach and get more people involved in protecting the open spaces that we have. Certainly, DPW is limited by funding and staffing, and it's hard for them to keep up with all the needs. And even though we're a small town geographically, there's intense needs because of the intense usage.
Right.
The density so the usage is high, and so the needs are high.
So
it's kind of a vicious cycle.
Correspondingly, the investment is high then, hopefully, for in terms of people recognizing the value in their lives of keeping these spaces as they are, or improving them even, and then therefore they're willing to go ahead and invest some of their own time and effort.
Yeah, and it's fabulous. I mean, I couldn't even say how many hundreds of people are probably members of all these different friends groups, and whether they help with weeding or at some of the gardens, or just cleaning up along Mill Brook. We've had a number of cleanups along Mill Brook, which is another resource that people really don't know too much about, but it's an important corridor. The brook runs from here, basically from the reservoir all the way down to the lower Mystic Lake, right through the center of town, parallel to the bike path, and it's inaccessible in many places, and part of it's underground even now. It's been culverted, over the years. But there are a number of really attractive places. We can walk down here, see part of it. So that's something that we're trying attention to as well.
I'm curious to know whether there is any role for the Open Space Committee with the CPA in town and the way the CPA functions. As you know, the town adopted the Community Preservation Act a couple of years ago, and one of the areas of concentration for the CPA is open space preservation.
We were so happy when the town finally was able to get that passed, because many of the capital planning projects to be done at some of the open spaces have to go through the capital planning committee and capital planning process, and again, their funds are limited. So now the CPA has become a new source of funding to help get some of these projects done. In fact, one of them that was just approved this year is a new master plan for the reservoir, which includes not just the water, but all of the grounds around it, and it's about 65 acres altogether, including some land that's actually in Lexington but is owned by the town of Arlington, so we have oversight over it. So this is a large area that has many diverse uses. It has the beach, has the habitat wildflower garden, it has the trails around the perimeter, the wooded areas and so forth. So there's a master plan that is being funded in part by the CPA, and that'll take a couple of years till it all gets, through the whole process. But that's just one example of really the value of CPA now for the town. It's much more than the couple $1 million that it will be able to generate. It's putting real attention on some of these places that the town has not been able to really keep up with. And Robbins Farm Park is getting a major renovation. Spy Pond is having a lot of work done on it, on erosion control and trail work there. So yeah, it's been a fabulous.
Yeah, I imagine the list of worthy projects will be never ending,
that's
because
right.
they will just regenerate over time.
Right, yeah.
it's definitely been a boon, I think, for the town
Yeah.
over these last years, and we're still at the first stages.
Right, we're just a couple of years in now, so yeah, there's going to be a long, I'm sure there'll be a long list of future projects as well. And the open space plan, I think, is valuable because it can help to focus attention on where some of those needs are.
Mm-hmm. And the plan that you generate really is used by the town as its principal, as the principal guide towards, the work that's going to be done in this area.
I really don't. It's one of them anyway. I mean, certainly the Park and Recreation Commission, they generate their own list of needs, and they're the ones with hands-on. They know exactly what they need, for example, in particular. But yes, this sort of sets the policy overview, in that sense. And so the priorities become pretty well accepted or kind of obvious because, we know where the needs are in general. And so the plan does, help to just memorialize that, I suppose.
I wanted to invite you, if there is anything either about the work of the Open Space Committee, its composition, or your own experience in this area and with volunteerism in general that we haven't covered or that you'd like just to either mention or reiterate, I wanted to invite you to do so.
Well, I don't know. I think we've covered a lot. I think really we wouldn't have an open space plan if the town in general hadn't been, committed back in the 90s to start this. And I think it did come out of kind of in combination with the Vision 2020, just kind of the town looking ahead to what its needs were, but it's now become sort of institutionalized, and now we have a master plan that the planning department and the ARB did, and there is a open space and natural resources section of that, and so the two, work side by side and complementary. And I think town meeting and other, that we've approved water bodies funds, now regularly. Those are recognized as pretty much of an annual need to control the water chestnuts here, to control invasives in Spy Pond and Hills Pond. We need to work more on Mill Brook water quality and Alewife Brook. But I think there's a pretty broad consensus that our open spaces are very important and our natural resources, and treating them well and maintaining them and doing whatever we can to keep them sustainable and to control, look at the effects of climate change. I mean, that certainly is going to be something going forward.
Speaking with LeRoyer, who is the chair of the Arlington Open Space Committee. I'm James Milan, coming to you from the beautiful reservoir on a beautiful day here in Arlington. We look forward to seeing you again soon.